For over 100 million Americans, nighttime has become the right time. The period of 10 to 12 to 14 hours a day that our grandparents spent inside their homes simply doesn't satisfy us any longer. In a world that spins faster than anyone ever dreamed of, not even sunshine fills our needs anymore. It cannot be said that the sun never sets in America, but it can be claimed and proven that a whole new life comes into being in America after sunset. We are rapidly becoming a nation of night people. When it got dark, people used to go to bed. Now, many of us are literally just beginning our day when night falls. In no other country in history has so much productivity, entertainment, and hard work been possible at night. The miracle that made the night come alive is light. The miracle of light, once thought to be the private property of the sun, has been extended to all of the 24 hours in the day. Every one of us is a beneficiary of this miracle, in our commerce as well as in our leisure.
Take the lead of about a length on the outside. Here's the great dog moving along in second place, making along the inside. Just the turn goes too fast. They have the turn in that second place.
Already there are thousands of shopping centers which do over 50% of their business after 6 p.m. People not only buy and sell, work and play at night, they travel also. Airports can be as crowded at midnight as they are at noon. And so our world is increasingly alive at night, alive with sights and sounds other generations couldn't have imagined. Truly, the night belongs to us now. The night has become our friend. But for many of us, the night is also an enemy.
Wait just a second. Let me have your name in that, please. You've got insurance company? Sure. argue about it, because I'll bring this up. We'll straighten it out.
The increased activity taking place at night has brought with it danger, violence, and even death.
This intersection we're supposedly headed to right now is almost a blind intersection. I believe there's only one streetlight on it. This looks like a dandy.
The rate of fatal traffic accidents is 3 times as great at night. 28,000 Americans die every year in night traffic accidents. If the night accident rate were just equal to the daytime rate, 12,000 men, women, and children who died last year would still be alive. Lights in the right places might have saved these people. Lights would at least have given them a chance. A pleasant evening becomes a ruined life. For these individuals, for their families, and for their communities, the darkness defines a tragedy. But the dark is just right for another element in society.
I feel comfortable in the night. The darker it is, the better it is. I feel uncomfortable in the daytime because you can't do nothing. Everybody's around, everybody's watching you. In the night, I look for good spots where I can burglarize, and something that's easy, or do a lot of peeping around it. You might see some broad undressing and all that. You get your kicks that way. I'd like to go in nice dark areas. I wouldn't go in places where it's too lit up.
For the defeated and deflated ego, inhibitions vanish in the darkness. What the day reveals, the night conceals. 82% of all burglary, 75% of all murder, and more than 75% of all rape takes place at night.
Gone to the movies with my girlfriend, and afterwards I drove her home, and I stopped and we talked a while, and then I drove home alone, and a few blocks from my home, the car was making funny bumps like I thought I must have had a flat. I stopped and I got out and walked to the front of the car, and one of the front wheels had a flat on it, and 2 guys drove by in a car and asked if I was having trouble and if they could help me, and I said yes, and so they parked their car and got out and came back and asked me if I had a jack, and I said yes, I did, in the trunk of my car. And I started to walk to the trunk, and I remembered that I had left my keys inside the car. And so as I reached in my car to get my keys, one of them pushed me down on the front seat and grabbed me around the neck and had a sharp object I thought was probably a knife at the back of my ear. And he told me to be quiet, not to make any noise, and he wouldn't hurt me. And then he told me to climb over the front seat and get into the back seat of the car. And I did that. And then he got into the back seat with me. And the other guy got into the front seat and leaned over the seat and held me down, put his hands on my shoulders and held me. And when the first one was finished with me, then he changed places with the other guy in the front seat. And when they had both finished, then they told me to stay in the car, to be quiet, and to stay where I was until they had left. And they got out and got into their car and drove away. As they drove by, I sat up and tried to get their license number, or at least the color identification of their car. But it was so dark, and they had their lights out, that I couldn't see their license number. It was very hard to even make out the make of the car or anything.
For the woman you have just heard, the night will probably never again be anything but an enemy, to be feared, avoided, and shut out whenever possible. She was attacked on a nice street, in a nice neighborhood. It could have been this one. For those who are just beginning to form their impressions of the world, fear of the night is already a strong force.
I live in the country, and it's very beautiful out there, but there just aren't that many lights, and sometimes when I walk home, I look around and the moon's shining down on trees, and it gets me scared because I think of that there's goblins all around, and I get scared, and so I sort of say to myself, help, and then I start running home, and when I get home I feel much better because there's a lot of lights there.
Well, I drew these two pictures, and this one was about one day when I was coming home from weeding at a neighbor's house, and going along the street on my bike. There aren't any lamps, and I'm coming home, and the only way I could see was by the light of the stars, which wasn't very much. And all of a sudden, a car came out of the darkness, and I don't know what I would do because the car could hit me or something, and so I started yelling and everything, and if there had been some lights, it could have seen me, and there wouldn't be any trouble. And what could have happened is I would have landed up in the hospital.
And sometimes I walk home from my friend's house, and I step on a leaf, and I think someone's after me, so I run. And then when I get down by our house where the dog is, the dog barks. And I don't know if the dog is barking at me or someone else, and I don't feel safe until I get into the house.
I don't like the dark because there's monsters and spooks and things crawling on the grass.
On the other side of our life cycle, primal fears about darkness are just as strong, stronger for many.
It's taken on proportions, and I don't feel as though I care to go out so much at night, especially alone. So if I do go out, I have my husband take me, and we don't do it very often because he feels that his eyes are dimming and it's not so safe, plus the fact that there are so many things going on in these darkened areas that you're taking a chance, and when you get to be older like we are, why, age is no barrier to crime, so we do most of our activities during the day.
I'm retired just a little bit over a year now. I certainly enjoy this retirement. And in fact, I've got so many dates, I've got to keep a date book. Things are going along very nicely, but there's only one thing which concerns me. At nighttime when I drive, the lighting is not so good in some sections of our community, and it would be very nice if we'd have just a little more light on some of our rural roads.
When one doesn't have fear of the darkness, oh, there is just so much beauty.
Fear begets more fear. The psychotic terror of the psychopath that propels him into antisocial acts has evoked an immediate citizen response, the creation of a whole self-defense industry. The arsenal of defenses that have been developed to protect lives and property are themselves terrifying. Some of the devices are helpful. Others merely feed on public anxiety. All are symptoms of a growing panic, a panic of overreaction that has been reflected in public life as well as private activities. Lethal pastimes such as judo and karate are being taught all over the country. There is no doubt that physical activity is good for the figure, but there is also no doubt as to why housewives are turning increasingly to karate.
The dark scares me. I used to work at night, and I'd get off around 10, and I had some experiences where people would follow me, or like drunks and stuff like that. And I was scared. I used to run to my car. But now I'm not scared anymore.
Crime fighting needs coordination. Civilian gadgets may be ingenious, but only in the hands of professionals can innovations become effective techniques. The police are still the safest and surest force against criminals, and the police have some new inventions of their own.
I'm Sergeant Crouch, Santa Monica, California. I've developed and patented a police shotgun that has considerable versatility over and above the other shotguns. My reasoning behind developing this was the fact that about 10 years ago, 2 officers were killed by 2 suspects with a .22 caliber revolver. My thinking went along the lines of a 12-gauge shotgun with pistol control and pistol versatility. This is the model that we've come up with that is now under manufacturing. There's 2,300 units now in use that has been sold to various police departments throughout the nation. I'll give you a slight demonstration of this weapon as to what it is intended to do and what it will do is the 360-degree yoke on the rear end of it. It takes the place of your standard stock. This yoke is basically prepared to fit into the arm in this position, in the yoke of your arm. This gives you one-handed operation. It has the light built in so that wherever your light is shining is where your shot is going. Ergo, the light is bore-sighted to the barrel, the same as your scopes would be bore-sighted to a rifle.
The police use a variation of Sergeant Krause's invention in a radically new method of night patrol from the air. This helicopter is part of what the Los Angeles police call Operation Skylight. Armed with powerful floodlights, this helicopter can seek out night crime and respond in seconds. It is no coincidence, the Los Angeles police tell us, that 4 times as much night crime occurs on badly lit streets as on the streets and boulevards where new street lighting has been installed. Modern police methods have driven crime into the shadows. Now it is the shadows themselves that must be eliminated.
Every law enforcement officer knows that light is a deterrent to crime. For any crime to be committed, several ingredients really are necessary. First, of course, is the desire of the perpetrator. Second, the opportunity, this being, of course, the lack of police. And third, and probably one of the most important ingredients, is the possibility of escape. I'm not really talking here just about the immediate escape. What I'm talking about is total escape. Total escape is that escape when the perpetrator of the crime realizes that there's very little chance that in a few days a detective is going to be knocking at his door with a warrant for his arrest. The purse snatcher, for example, charges rapidly from behind, snatches the purse, runs straight away, depending on the fact that the victim did not have the opportunity to see his face. Lack of light, darkness, provides the possibility of total escape that the criminal so desperately needs. Burglars despise light. Sex offenders really can't operate in light. And so the deterrent, the real deterrent to crime, is light.
As mayor of the city of Titusville and administrative assistant to the county solicitor, and as a retired lieutenant with the Florida Highway Patrol, I recognize the needs to make our streets and highways safer. I feel that we have done this in Titusville with this improvement of our lighting system. It has been of tremendous benefit to the merchants in that they are able to stay open later at night. There's no question but what it has made the streets and highways safer from a traffic safety standpoint and also from a standpoint of pedestrian traffic.
As long as sight is our most vivid sense, we will be bereft without light. It will grace our leisure as it graces the infinite possibilities of our occupations. When he was going blind, the great poet John Milton considered how his light had been spent. Ahead of him, Milton saw only a dark world in the dim eclipse of disastrous twilight. Today, the spending of light means very simply the saving of lives, of property, and of money. If a city is lighted, it becomes a community. If it is dark, it is a web of terror. If there is more light, there is less need for housewives learning karate, and there is less need for weapons, since light discourages violence of all kinds. We are poised to reach for the stars to light our way to the dark corners of the universe. Now let us make sure that the dark corners of our own communities are also illuminated. For light and darkness cannot coexist. One of them must win. To live in darkness is to live in fear. As we light a path to the stars, we must still remember to light our own sidewalks, highways, parks, playgrounds, and other public areas. To light our daily and nightly lives. Without light, we really cannot go anywhere. With light, anywhere is exactly where we can go, from our doorsteps to Mars.